Hello, friends. My name is Lynn, and what is this pile of crafty goodness in front of me? Well, I took a look at my playlist. I have a product review playlist of a lot of the things that I have purchased over the last year, and I did a first look of those products where I open it up for the first time, use it for the first time, give you my unvarnished thoughts and first opinions as I am experiencing them. And then for most of the products, I have come back and actually did a conclusion of what I think of the product. And I realized that for a lot of the products, I actually never did that conclusion video. And so this is going to be probably a pretty lengthy video. My purpose in creating it is one, to revisit all of those products, or as many of them as I can, and two, with a lot of Black Friday sales coming up, I wanted to give you like one video recap of whether I thought all of these things were worth it in the end. Many of you who watch a lot of my videos recognize a lot of these, and so to me they are worth it because I use them often and there's video proof of that. And other things might not get used as often, but I would find valuable, well worth the money. And then some things I feel like you might see me use them, but the honest truth of the matter is, even if there's a fabulous Black Friday sale on it, I probably wouldn't buy it again. And so with Black Friday coming up, I'm hoping that this video helps to give you an opinion. It's just my opinion. And if you're wondering whether some of these bigger ticket items is actually worth it, and you're looking for opinions, well, here's mine. And hopefully that helps you to either be on the lookout for deals on something in particular, or maybe help you to resist purchasing something just because it's a really good deal, because I know I fall into that more often than I would like to admit. So I'm going to clear everything off, and then I'm going to start going through all of these goodies one by one and give you my thoughts on them. So I want to let you know up front, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but what I'll try to do is I will try to cover these in logical groupings, and I will timestamp or bookmark this video so that if you are particularly interested in a particular kind of class of products, I'll try to have all of those in the same sort of area, and that way if you want, you can just skip to that section. All right, so let's clear this all off and I'll let you know, was it worth it? Okay, this is where I think I want to start this video off, and it is paper trimmers, paper cutters, and I have, if you've ever watched any of my live streams, and in particular, if you have watched this past World Card Making Day, you know that I have a lot of paper trimmers, and probably more than any one individual really needs in their life. But I will let you know off the top, this is a very popular trimmer, Tim Holtz's rotary trimmer. It's pretty expensive, and this in particular is the product that I have a first look video on, and I also have a follow-up video on it. My conclusion on this particular product, if you watch that video, and I go in depth on all of my trimmers in a different type of video, but you're gonna find I've already seen deep discounts on the rotary trimmer, and I think because it is somewhat polarizing in the sense that some people love it and some people are not big fans. I am in the latter category. I'm not a huge fan of it. That being said, you've probably actually seen me use it on projects in my videos, and I'll tell you what I reserve this rotary trimmer for. I pretty much only use this for chipboard, and occasionally we'll use it for cardstock and whatnot if I don't really care what sort of finish I get on the final cut, because this, for as sharp as these blades should be, for as cleanly as it should be able to cut, I always get fuzzies. I always get a little bit of weird buckling. I just don't get a good finish on the final cut. So I don't like to use this rotary trimmer for anything that I want to actually look good. And so chipboard is fine to cut through. It's actually designed to cut through thicker media like chipboard, and so it's actually quite well suited for that, and it does a good job at it. So that's what I use it for, because to be honest, I don't care if it dulls the blade. I don't even care if it ruins the whole trimmer ultimately at the end of the day, one of these days down the line, because this is not my favorite trimmer, so I'm not precious about it at all. If I had it to do over again, I probably wouldn't purchase it. So that being said, why do I have so many others? I did get it because I thought, oh, this is going to be really great. It's compact. It is self-sharpening. You know, it's not meant that this would last forever. You might ultimately find yourself needing to replace the blade, but it's supposed to last you a really good long time. And so far it's still cutting chipboard with ease. So for that purpose, it's actually doing its job. But what is my favorite paper trimmer? So if you are just getting into paper crafting, or if you are in the market for a good paper trimmer, to be honest, this is what I would recommend. If you've watched my videos over the years, you know that ever since I bought this, pretty much almost every video, I actually use it. And the only times that you don't see me using it in the video is when I've actually already cut and prepared everything, and I've already used it off camera. And so this is the We Are Makers all-in-one tool. And it has like 10, 12 some odd different functions, but really the crux of this and why it's so fantastic is the fact that it can, you can actually score. You can flip this over and score. It's got a scoring tool, and you can cut. This is a drop-in V-blade cutter or trimmer. And so this is your cutting blade here, and then besides that, it has a bunch of other functionality. You can punch holes, you can make tabs, you can round corners, you can even make envelopes, and you can cut small things, and you can cut large, wide things with the this bar coming out and extending the ruler. The cutting track, the ruler marks are really fabulous. Everything is marked down to the 1/8 of an inch. I love that it is right up to where your paper is, so you can get really good alignment. And there's nothing I don't like about this trimmer. The only negative, and it's not even anything against this, it's just that you have to replace the blade. And for as often as I craft and as much as I use this, I find I have to actually replace it pretty often. And so besides the fact that there's some ongoing cost with using it, that's not really a dig on this as a paper trimmer. That's just the fact that that's what you get with a drop-in V-blade trimmer. That's like, it's a consumable, and you kind of know that going in with this type of paper trimmer. So it's not even really a negative, because you kind of know that going in that it's part of this style of trimmer. Otherwise, I feel like it is a little bit of a considered purchase. It's less costly than the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer, I believe. But it is way more, in my craft room, more used and a more critical kind of craft supply. So if you're new, just getting into paper crafting, I feel like this, besides the fact that it has a bunch of other functions that I hardly ever really use, it is phenomenal for just the cutting and the scoring alone. And the fact that you can extend this and cut all the way out or measure all the way out to 14 inches is just amazing. So I would say if you're looking for something that is nice and tidy and a multifunctional tool, this is a little bit of a considered purchase, but it is well worth it even at full price. And I imagine with a lot of Black Friday deals going on, you could probably get this at a really good price. And if you don't already have one and you're in the market for it, I don't think you can go wrong with it. That being said, I do have a lot of other trimmers, and I will give you my brief opinion on them, and just in case you are interested. Guillotine trimmers, I would say, if you're looking for a clean cut all the time, precise cutting and sharp, really clean edge, the guillotine is really fabulous. It is sharp, self-sharpening blade. And why do I have it in so many sizes though? Well, I started with the 12-inch because I do craft with 12 by 12 papers, and so measuring out to the 12-inch mark was important. And so I actually got this before I got the all-in-one, which does, can measure out, as I showed, to 14 inches, in fact. And so, this is becoming less and less useful. However, with the drop-in type of paper trimmer, sometimes you don't always get a really clean edge, in particular when you're kind of getting to the end of the life of the blade and it starts to get dull. Instead of really like cleanly slicing through, it starts to kind of crush the paper, and then you start getting fuzzies and you start getting like a rolled edge on the back, and it's just not as neat of a finish, whereas your guillotine you're not going to have that problem with. And so if I am cutting something that I really care to have a nice sharp clean edge on, I use a guillotine. I use one of these guillotines. And it's funny because I've been called out on this multiple times now, because in videos, in live streams, you'll often see me reach for one, grab another. I'm using different ones all the time because they each have like a different purpose for me. Not that I need them all, because you can make do with just one, and if you had to only pick one size, I'll let you know which one that is. This right here. But I'll tell you why I still pull this one out and why I still pull this one out. And so, do you need all of these different trimmers? No, but I'll tell you why I reach for certain ones. This one here was the second one that I got. And the reason why I purchased this one is I wanted something small. Something nice and tidy, something that isn't this big, massive 12-inch Fiskars one. And that way, when I have to just trim maybe like a little sentiment banner, I don't have to pull out my big trimmer to do that. And so that's why I got this little one. It works great. It's from a nice, reliable brand. I went with Fiskars because I love this one. This one's Fiskars, and it is really fantastic. No complaints with this. However, just in terms of, the final cut. However, I am a Spellbinders influencer, and I had the opportunity to receive this one. And I said, yes, please, I would love to try it, especially because of the size. The one thing that annoyed me with this one is because it's 4 inches. That's the final marking that you have. And it's maybe 6 inches this way. So the thing is that in this direction, it doesn't actually have markings for like the 5.5 inch. And I do a lot of A2 size card making. And so you can't really get a reliable, 4 1/4 if you're cutting an A2 panel. It just so happens that it goes to the end of the plastic, but there's no actual marking for it, so you're kind of just maybe guessing if that's very precise or not. And so I don't like that. This, however, I love the size of this one because if you often use US letter size paper, 8.5 inches you can slide in and it fits all the way. And so what does that mean? That means that because this measures out to, like, the final measurement is actually 6 1/8, maybe 6 and, yeah, I would say 6 1/8 is the last tick mark there. So you can actually cut your A2 panels from a US letter size. So I can put this to 5.5 this way. And then if I need to make another panel, I can slide that back in this way and cut my 4 1/4. So I can get my A2 panels using this size guillotine trimmer and get perfect, crisp, nice, sharp edges, almost factory sharp. And it's pretty small, it's convenient, and it's great. If you don't craft with 12x12 papers, I would say this is a really good bet to have. If you don't care about super sharp, crisp edges, then stick with the all-in-one tool because this only cuts paper, whereas your all-in-one tool can cut, can score, can punch holes, can round corners, can notch corners, can do all the things. So this is definitely a single function, single use tool. But as you know, if you've watched my videos, I often, even in the same video, will grab for different trimmers, and you'll see me grab one, put it back, and grab a different one. And why is that? Because I still actually use this little one. And the reason why I use this little one still is because of this functionality. Fiskars, while they do trust that we need to have some safety measures in place, they do still trust us to make that decision for ourselves. So what I mean by that is that you can actually remove the on both of these, you can remove the plastic guard that helps you kind of have something to hold your papers down so that you don't have to get your fingers super close to the blade when you're cutting. And I'll be honest, I find that to be a plus. The Spellbinders one, you really can't. I mean, you're not really meant to do it, and you really can't, at least not with ease, remove this guardrail. And because this plastic guard is here, and because it's so wide, it makes it really hard if you are trimming, say I have a little sentiment banner here, but that's actually a little bit wider than what I would need. Let's say I want this little sliver to cut off. Well, if this was still here, it can be kind of hard to like hold this down and really make sure that it's firmly down. You could do it, but then your paper starts to get lost under this plastic and it's hard to get it just right. So often what I find myself doing, and I feel very comfortable doing this, you should only do this if you also feel very comfortable doing it. It's definitely not advised, but I feel very comfortable taking off that safety rail so that I can hold it close like this and then cut a little sliver off of my little sentiment banners if I wanted or needed to do. So that's why this one still has a place in my craft room. That's why you still see me reaching for it from time to time, because I can do that, because this plastic is not so big and bulky that it's in the way. So I don't know necessarily if I had to do it over again, if I would necessarily buy this, but I do feel like having a guillotine is really nice, whichever size works best for you. But if you want a nice clean cut, a nice perfect sharp edge, a guillotine is great. And if I could only pick one size to craft with, I would pick this size. And I do like the Spellbinders guillotine. It's nice. It works every time. I I know that not everybody has had really great experience with it, but I love it and I would definitely recommend it. The Big Fiskars one is also really fabulous. I've had this for years. The blade is still sharp as ever. So that is trimmers. Now let's take a look at another really basic supply. Die cutting machines. So I think it was last Black Friday actually. I got the Anna Griffin Mini Empress. That's this right here. And I paid for it, and I do have a review on it, and I think I have a follow-up on it as well. And then the Bureaucraft machine, this I was sent to do for free to do a review, and I have also a first look and a conclusion video on that one. I would say that besides these, I also have the large Gemini, and I also have the large Spellbinders Platinum when it was Fun Stampers Journey Platinum. So I have it's pretty old school. It's got the Fun Stampers Journey colors and everything. And I don't use my Platinum anymore, to be honest. It's been replaced now with my large Gemini as my the large platform machine that I use. And I would have to say that probably 95% of the time I use this. And the reason is because the size of it is, for a mini machine, the size of this is pretty fantastic. It actually will fit, this is an A2 card base. This plate will actually fit an A2 card base, which means that this can actually even cut A2 cover dies into your A2 panels. That's not mini. Most mini machines can do like 3.5 maybe, I think. And those are really for small things. But this can take up to 4.25, which I think now means that probably 95% of my dies can go through this. And a lot of the dies that can't go through it are maybe some of my album making dies. Well, my own Easy Wonder die won't go through this, but pretty much everything else that I use, I can actually run through the Mini Empress. And what's great about it is that it is an electronic die cutting machine, which means that you just push a button and it will take the plates and roll them through without you having to crank it manually. So if you have hand issues, arm issues, things like that, and die cutting with a typical, like a manual one that you have to kind of crank the handle to roll through, this is going to be easier on your body and on your hands and arms. And so I really love it, in particular because of the size. It can really do pretty much most of my die cutting. So I love it. It works great. And I have used this. I think I did buy this on a Black Friday sale last year. And so I've used this probably for a good year now, and I have not needed to change the plate. Look, it's still pretty flat. I cut into the plate. I cut into both sides of the plate all over, as you can see. I have not even cut into the second plate. This is, my bottom plate, pretty pristine, pretty clean still. I very occasionally cut into my magnetic mat, just every once in a while when I really feel like I need to put the die face down so it really holds and I can really position it. But otherwise, I always cut into the plastic mat with the dye face up, and it's pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit, you can see it's warped a little bit, but not a ton. The magnetic mat has definitely warped. I mean, you can kind of see that it's all started the same size, but now look, the magnetic mat is like bigger. That's why I have this extra bit of cardstock as a bit of a shim, because this has flattened out some. You can tell because now it's actually bigger than the plates, and they all used to be the same size. So over time, you're gonna find that you might have to shim a little bit because of that fact. This is just, I mean, that mass had to go somewhere, so it's actually, thin this out a little bit. And so I just put a little bit of cardstock. Sometimes I need to add an extra one in there as well. I feel like I always have to have at least one in there, and that most of the time will cut through most everything. And then if it hasn't cut through everything, I have a couple extra bits of shim, just really plain old cardstock, and I'll just throw one in if I need to. But that's pretty rare. So that's the Anna Griffin Mini Empress. Love it. No regrets on that. However, the BetterCraft machine has actually played a larger role in my craft room, and so you'll find me bringing this on camera every now and then, and most of the reason why is because it actually is compatible and works perfectly well with the BetterPress. This is another crafty tool that I get a lot of use out of. You can see how dirty my BetterPress is. It's embarrassing how dirty this is, but that just means it's proof that I use it a lot. Let me show you, no judging, okay, friends? That's how white it should be. And because these are the extra shims that come where you can actually add like an extra shim if you need to, or take them out if you need to. So there's 3 extra shims, so you can actually not add, but you can actually look. I should probably clean this. Like, that's probably really gunky. I've never actually taken this out before. So don't judge me on how gunky this is, but if you were to use thicker cardstock, then you would want to take these out just so that you have the right amount of pressure. But that's how clean and white and pristine it should be. But this is how grungy it's become because I use it a lot and I love it. And the BetterCraft machine can accept the BetterPress, and it works just fine on the letterpress setting. And so I actually use this whenever I do better pressing nowadays. So so this is definitely a tool that I would 100% recommend. It's a bit of a one-use tool for letterpressing, but the beauty of it is that your BetterPress plates and any press plates, you can actually, they do have dual functionality, because you can actually take those BetterPress plates and you can hot foil with them. So that's going to lead me into my next topic, foiling. So if you are in the market for a manual machine, just let me recap that the BetterCraft or similar, because there are other similar manual die cutting machines that look very similar, function very similarly with the two dials and everything. It's well worth it. I mean, to be honest, I prefer a electronic machine for my die cutting. So really, I use my Empress, my mini Empress, and my Gemini, the full-size Gemini, for most of my die cutting. For really, I should say all of my die cutting. The only time I use the BetterCraft is for my better pressing and for glimmering. And that's because I've put away my platinum machine, as I mentioned, so I still need a machine that's compatible and large enough to accept these machines. So I mentioned that we're going to get into foiling. So I have the mink now. This is my recent purchase. And I haven't really been using it long enough or often enough to give you a concluding thought on it. But I'll give you, I did do a first look video, and I'll give you my cursory thoughts on it so far. I'm more familiar because I've had the Glimmer machine for longer. So I can definitely tell you that I love my Glimmer. I love to hot foil, and I love it more now that I have figured out how to get consistent results. The key to me getting more consistent results was to use the Hammer Mill 100-pound color digital color copy paper or cardstock. That really, I think, made such a huge difference, and it is now actually kind of fun to foil, whereas before it just was disappointing because I was getting a lot of underfoiling, I was getting overfoiling, and I just felt like I was wasting foil. And so when I started to use, the thing is, I was precious about my Hammer Mill paper because there was a time when it was really hard to find, and then if you could find it, it was really expensive, and so on and so forth. And so when I found that I could buy an entire case of it, meaning I think a case is like 10 packs, 10 reams. I jumped on that, and I took advantage, and I went ahead and got that, so I don't have to worry about that for a while now. And so that has helped a lot. And then the Glimmer specialty paper has also helped a lot. And I only tried the Glimmer specialty paper because becoming a Spellbinders influencer, I really wanted to understand all of their products. And so whatever isn't sent to me, I have tried to buy on my own to test, to understand, so that I can make an informed decision when I talk about their products. And if there are alternatives that I recommend, then I want to do that with having experienced their products, and that way I can give you a reason if I'm recommending something else. But I have to say, the Glimmer specialty paper, if you are looking to really get like reliable results time and time again, it's well worth it. I mean, it's spendy as paper goes, but worth it if you feel like you are met with frustration trying everything else. And so because there's a lot of variables between, the brand of hot foil plate you're using, your machine, how old it is, how much pressure there is with it. A lot of that can really lead to frustrations and lead to inconsistent results. And I know that I've experienced that frustration, but having used the Hammer Mill paper and then thinking that the Hammer Mill was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm getting really consistent results, like no underfoiling, very rarely having any underfoiling, pretty rare, even more rare to have overfoiling. I was really happy with that. And then I used the Glimmer specialty paper, and I was like, whoa, that's actually even better. So it is worth it, and there is a notable difference. The difference between the hot foil system, though, and the mink, there still might be a reason why you would want both in your craft room, or just one, and it kind of depends on what it is you want to foil in the sense of the designs and how to procure those designs. So the mink works on a totally different type of foil. The Glimmer works with hot foiling. The mink works with transfer foil. Transfer foil needs a medium in order to transfer the foil from the carrier sheet that it comes on to the substrate that you want to foil a design onto. And what I mean by that is it needs some kind of adhesive. So whether that's something like the transfer gel or that's something like toner, which when melted will grab that foil from the carrier sheet, and as it cools, it will attach itself essentially to the paper that it's been printed on. And so with a mink or a laminator, because you can use a laminator too, and that's what I used for years and years, you would need something like a toner printed design. You could laser print something because laser printers use toner, or you can use just adhesive. You could use like a two-way adhesive that goes on wet, and when it dries tacky. You could use a tape runner, for example. Lots of different things that you can use to transfer your foil off of the carrier sheet and onto the substrate. Hot foil works on a different system where you actually need a metal plate of some sort, and with just the heat that the machine will provide and the pressure that your die cutting machine provides, that is enough to transfer the foil onto whatever substrate you are trying to foil onto, and having it stick and adhere to that substrate. It actually doesn't need any type of glue, just the heat and the pressure and the metal design that pretty much stamps that design into your substrate will be sufficient. Now, you might have, I might have glossed over the fact that to use the glimmer machine, you actually do need a die cutting machine, whereas with the mink, you only need the mink. So you just run it through this and then you're good to go. Whereas with the hot foil system, you actually need another device. You need a die cutting machine of some sort to actually run this this through. And so I use my BetterPress these days to glimmer because this is compatible with the BetterPress manual die cutting machine, just like how the BetterPress is compatible as well. And so there is that expense also. And then there's the fact that if you do want to hot foil something, you need the plates. The designs come on plates. Now, the nice thing is that the metal plates can be hot foil plates, which are designed for foiling. They can be BetterPress plates you can use on here, and they foil beautifully. Or you can even use your dies. It gives you a little bit of a different look, but it is possible to use your dies to foil as well. So while this accepts a fair number of different types of metal plates, it's still another expense, and it's a limitation in terms of the types of designs that you can foil, because you have to be able to buy the design. You're not really likely to be able to make your own metal plates and design them in that way. Whereas with the mink, if you have access to a laser printer that can print, you can foil whatever you'd like. So if you have a laser printer at home and you can, I don't know, you can type up something like an invitation in a word processor software and print it out with your laser printer, and then you can foil it. So there's a lot more flexibility in terms of the designs that you can get. Now, you can get pre-printed toner panels from a lot of different companies, and so you don't need to have a laser printer, and you can get designs that are ready-made and ready to foil. But you do have that option open to you. If you, even if you don't have a laser printer, you could always go to like a Kinko's or a FedEx or whatever and get it printed at a office supply, kind of store. So that is definitely something that is kind of nice, because that means that really, there's endless possibility, and you don't have to store a bunch of extra things. So you don't have to store a bunch of extra metal plates. You don't need a die cutting machine in order to run, your panel through. And so there is that. Now, in terms of the final look, both of them, there's a wide variety of different colors of foils. Remember, there's 2 different types of foils. They're not interchangeable. You can't use one with the other and get the exact same results. So this does need a transfer foil and this does need a hot foil, but in those various 2 types of foils, you can get them in a variety and multitude of different colors. So I don't think you're going to find any color restrictions there. In terms of the final finish, I would say there's one difference that is notable. When you are using a transfer foil, you're going to get pretty much a flat finish. Like everything is going to feel smooth and flat. And I mean, you might feel like something a little bit raised if maybe you are using like an adhesive tape kind of application and you're not even using a mink or a laminator. You're just putting the foil on top of the sticky adhesive and that would work. So you might feel that adhesive. But with the hot foil, because as I mentioned, you have a metal plate that you heat up on the system, and that pushes the design into your substrate, into your cardstock. And so what ultimately happens is that you actually have a deboss where an emboss is kind of raised, right? So the design in this case is deboss, meaning it's sunken into your cardstock. And I feel like that is a little bit something extra special about hot foiling because you get a little bit of that texture, you get a little bit of that that little debossing, which is kind of nice. It's a nice little detail. And so in that sense, I feel like it's quite nice. I've been frustrated with using a laminator to do transfer foiling, so that's the reason why I got the mink. I did get it on sale, and so I got it for a good price. And with Black Friday coming up, all of these things you might find on sale. And if you're looking to kind of go into that rabbit hole of foiling, some really good options there, and I'm sure there's going to be some good sales out there as well. So something to be on the lookout for if you are in the market for it. Okay, so those, and I would definitely, now I haven't had this for super long now, but I really do like it so far. And you can, if you are not sure whether or not you like foiling or you're not sure if you're gonna do it all that often, you can just get a laminator. And in my first look video of when I unboxed the mink and used it for the first time, I actually did a side-by-side comparison of the mink versus my Amazon laminator. So if you want to watch that video, you can see how they kind of compare head to head. And the results from the mink, I don't know yet if it justifies the cost, but I can tell you one thing, there's a noticeable difference. And I am quite pleased with how it performed initially and how it's performed since, because I have used it since and I like it. So it really just depends on whether you think you're gonna get, how often do you think you're gonna foil, and the occasions that you're foiling for, are they important to you to have the foiling? So, because you might not use it often, but those might be super important occasions and might still justify the cost. Okay, so lately you might have noticed that I've been doing a lot of cinching. And I actually have quite a few cinches. Well, that's not a ton. I just have 3. Nowhere near the number of paper trimmers I have. But let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here. And you might find a really good deal. And you might be some deals might be so good that they're worth it, and then other deals might be so good because there's a reason why, and you may not want to get that. Let me tell you why. The multi-cinch, I believe, is the newest in the line of cinches for binding and different binding methods. The multi-cinch has this nice small footprint, and the real innovation is that you can actually swap out the punch. This is the actual punch that will punch out your holes, and you can swap this out and put in a different style of punch to do a different style of bookbinding. And so that makes this multi-cinch now super multi-purpose, and for a fraction of kind of the storage space that you would need to have, if you wanted to do all I think there's 7 different styles of punches. And instead of having 7 of these machines, you just have the one machine, and then you have these 7 punches, and it takes up a fraction of the space in your craft room. And so it's really fabulous. I've already seen some good deals on the cinch. Where are some places that you can look for it? American Crafts itself, which is, I think, the sort of umbrella brand for We Are Memory Keepers. So they their website has it. HSN often has it on sale. I've seen it on Amazon. I've seen it on scrapbook.com as well. So check all of these different sites and see where, if you're in the market for a cinch, where you can get a good deal, because there are some really deep discounts to be had. Probably where you'll see a really deep discount is on the disc cinch and on the mini cinch, not the multi cinch, but the mini cinch. And I imagine the mini cinch is I don't have it. I think it's probably about this size and looks a lot like this, but you, with the mini cinch, can only punch circular holes, kind of like the big original cinch here punches the circular holes. It's going to be about this size though, and the reason why I think you're gonna find that deeply discounted is because with the multi-cinch coming out, this is really, I feel, going to make the disc and the mini cinch obsolete, because they only do the one type of holes. They only punch the one kind of holes. And for all of the space, I mean, they're small. And at the time that they came out, it was great to have such a small but also heavy duty punch. But they are a single purpose machine. This is the disc cinch, so it only punches the mushroom holes. And that's all it does. So with the multi-cinch coming out and being able to punch a lot of different styles of binding, it kind of makes these, single purpose tools a little bit obsolete. So that's why I think you're going to find maybe even deeper discounts on the disc and on the mini cinch. Now, if you know that disc bound, systems are all you ever want to do, might be a really great deal to look for these, because I've seen them on sale for like over half off. And so and that's before Black Friday. So with Black Friday coming up, maybe you can even find even better deals on it. But if you feel like there's the possibility that you might want to try some different binding methods, then you might instead look for a deal on the multi-cinch. And you might not be able to find quite as steep of a discount, but if you think that at some time down the road you're gonna go beyond the use of just having the one, Even if it's like super, super cheap, I would maybe spend a little bit more and get the multi-cinch, and it might be a lot more. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it's like a small insignificant difference. It's not like a $10 difference. It's probably more than that in terms of a price difference. But if you want freedom and flexibility to have a lot of different styles of binding, then the multi-cinch is probably like a good bet. And so over time, if you're gonna end up like me, ending up with multiple different cinches, you might want to just jump to this, even though it's a little bit more of a considered purchase. So that's just something to think about. You might, like I said, find like a super fantastic deal, but is it worth it to have like two cinches that do one very specific thing, or are you better off just paying more, getting this, and having it be able to do multiple things? When you get this, I think the default bundle is that you get the disc holes, like this right here. You get the version that will do the mushroom holes, so that would take care of your disc cinch, and you get the version that does the double loop binding holes, not the squares though. I think the default is the circles. I have all 7 of the punches because I got it as a bundle on HSN that actually included all 7 punches that you can, I think, currently get. I don't think they have released more than that, and I don't know that they will, but they might. And with the 7, there's a few pretty interesting uh punches that I've used. Like I've used their Coptic binding punch, which I really like, and so I have found it nice to have the multi cinch. But like I said, if you don't think that you're gonna dabble in other binding systems, then because the disc cinch and because the mini cinch, I feel like, are being made obsolete by the fact that this guy is on the market now, you might be able to get a really fabulous deal on them. So it just kind of depends on what you think you'll need and what you think you'll use. Now, that brings me to this big one. Is this one obsolete? So there's a material difference between the two, and not just size. That's most notable. This can punch a lot more holes at a time. I think double. So this can punch 12 holes. This small one can punch 6. So what does that mean? That means that if you are making a larger size notebook, this is going to be so much faster, because instead of having to punch, if you need all of these holes, instead of having to punch them twice on this one, you can just punch it the one time and then you're done. And so that's going to save a lot of time, especially if you make to sell or you make a lot of the same thing to give as gifts. And you might not think that it's a big deal, but every time you kind of have to move and align things, that's a potential for error, right? So if you can get in one pass everything cut at the same time, then there's a lot less potential to introduce error and to introduce, something getting a little bit off. That's only one difference, and you might feel like, oh, okay, that's fine. I don't mind, paying a little bit less or what have you, just having this. And then if it takes a little bit of extra time, if it takes a little bit of extra passes, then well worth the difference in price, or well worth it to just stick to getting the one multi-cinch. The bigger material factor that is different is that the big cinch can actually make larger notebooks in the number of pages that can be contained within the notebook. Size of the actual notebook, like the height of the notebook and the width of the notebook, the multi cinch, the mini cinch, the disc cinch, you can do continuous hole punching, and so you can you can have that extend for as long as you need. Same with this as well. So I don't mean size in that way, but I mean size in terms of the number of pages or the diameter of the wire loops that you can use. So for example, this one's actually from We Are Memory Keepers, and this is 5/8 inch wire. And so your finished notebook will have a diameter of 5/8 of an inch. And that's all this can do. This can only make 5/8 inch diameter notebooks. Can't go any smaller, and you can't go any larger than that. Whereas this original cinch, this larger machine, it can actually go down to 3/8 of an inch, and it can go up to 1 1/4 inch. And so when you can actually turn this dial, and that actually will adjust how far down it will crimp your wires closed, because when this is what the wires look like. And so you have something like this. You load your pages in, and you can see that the ends are open. So what happens when you put the ends back here and you pull the lever down is it's going to crimp these, and it's going to bring those two open ends. I'll just do it on one of these. It's basically going to bring those two open ends together, and it'll look a little something like that. And so that's what the machine is going to do for you, but it's going to do it nice and like evenly and precisely, and so it's going to be perfect every time, and it's going to fit like really snugly and perfectly in like that. So with the bigger machine though, you have the flexibility to make different size notebooks. So if you want a thicker notebook, you can do that. If you want a thinner notebook, you can do that, whereas you don't have that option with any of these smaller footprint machines. So whether it's the multi-cinch or the mini cinch, which punches the same holes as this, you're not going to be able to have that flexibility of choosing how thick of a notebook you want to create. So I feel like the original cinch, whether you have this one or the Heidi Swapp version, the difference between this and the Heidi Swapp version is that the Heidi Swapp version punches square holes, which I think is kind of cool. But the Heidi Swapp version is always more expensive and never goes on sale. So that's what I have found anyways. And so that's the difference between these, and this still I feel like has a place in my craft room, even though I really like the multi-cinch. That disc cinch that I have, I really don't reach for that anymore, because this can do disc cinching and is perfectly good at it, and then some. So if I were to do it again, I mean, in terms of my history with the cinch, I actually bought this first, and then I found myself enjoying it a lot and liking the disc bound system, and so that's when I got the disc cinch. And then the multi cinch came out, and then I was like, oh, I already do by hand. I've done Coptic stitch binding, and I thought to myself, well, if that can punch the holes, because that's the thing that I hate about doing Coptic stitch binding is punching the holes, because I have to do it manually, and it's hard on my hands to do, and I always feel like it's a little bit off, and to have the cinch be able to do that is really great. I mean, I've used it for that, and so I've gotten good use out of my multi-cinch. But that's me. If you watch videos on my channel, I mean, I have a whole playlist on We Are Memory Keepers products in general, but I have a whole playlist on just like journals, notebooks, and stuff, which are mostly using cinch to do some kind of binding. And so I get a lot of use out of my cinches, and so well worth it for me anyways in my craft room. But as I mentioned, with the multi-cinch coming out, it is kind of making some of those other cinches a little bit obsolete just because they are single function tools where this is a multi-function tool. And I kind of feel like at some point, once all of those kind of sell out, I don't know that they're going to even make more of them because, you know, why wouldn't you want the multi-cinch? Because it can do more. And so now might be a really good time to look into getting one of those. Something maybe not a lot of crafters will have, so I'm starting to get into some more like specialty kind of things. These two products are I have first look videos for both of them. I have a like a follow-up conclusion video for the mint. I don't have one for the Stamp Forge. Both of these will create essentially custom stamps, but again, in two very different material ways, kind of like hot foiling versus transfer foiling. They both do foiling, but the method and the materials are different, and the fundamentals of how they achieve the end product is different. The Silhouette Mint is essentially a thermal printer, and it prints onto rubber your design. And at the end of the day, what you're gonna end up with is a stamp that is mounted on something like that. And you can kind of see I have my logo printed. It's slightly raised. The thermal printing does something to kind of transfer the design, print the design on here, but you can see this is a custom design. This is my logo. I just made this on my computer and I printed it onto this is rubber, not red rubber, but rubber, kind of like when you have your it's sort of the same thing as one of these self-inking. It's very similar, but this I think is actually, it might be photopolymer. But it's similar just in the fact that you can create a custom design, and it's really easy. You can connect your printer to this and just send it like you were sending it to an inkjet printer. It's really great. And then you ink this up, so it's pre-inked, and you can actually get several, they say 50, but it really depends on how much ink you've loaded this up with. But you can get, you know, a fair number of impressions before it starts to get splotchy or it starts to dry out, and then you just ink it up again and use it that way. Unlike a self-inking system, this actually has an ink pad back here, so when it retracts, that is actually making contact with the ink pad. So this is actually like hitting an ink pad in a very traditional way. Very similar to what this can do for you. So this will actually make a photopolymer stamp. And I got it because it's, well, to be honest, I was looking forward to getting this, and I was doing a lot of research and seeing if it's what I wanted, and then I found this. And while I was waiting for this to come out on the market, this thing went on sale and I decided to try it. And so I got it and I love it. Now, the only thing is that because this is a printer pretty much, it can only print onto blanks that are very, very specific sizes. So this is a size, this is another size, and I think I have another size as well, something in between these two. And so you're kind of limited to you can design whatever you want, but you're kind of limited in the sense of, the size, the dimensionality and whatnot of your stamps. And also because you have to kind of pre-ink this, like it's always gonna ink. This is an actual impression after I made the stamp. I stamped it onto a label, and until this blue ink runs out, I'm always gonna get blue LV and black handcrafted, always. And once I can stamp this out until it's dry and there's no more ink, and then I can re-ink it with a different color, and then I'm stuck with that color until that's done. So there's some limitations, whereas this stamp forge will actually create you a photopolymer stamp that you can use just like the stamps that you buy, like actual photopolymer stamps that you buy at, from stamp companies, and you can make it yourself now. And so that's really, really cool. And it sounds really exciting. And the thing is that when I made my first stamp, it was hard to do and it doesn't stamp very well. I mean, there's a lot of steps to it, and I was not super thrilled with the end result. So I don't mind something taking a lot of time to do if the results at the end of the day are nice and you have something that you can use that is your own, because that's the whole reason to get this, is so that you can create something that is your own. If you're artistic, or even if you're not, but you know how to like maybe put things together, like I can create my own logo, for example, you can create your own design and make it and use it. And I think that's really, I love the idea of that. But it took so long to just get one thing out of this, and the results weren't great. It looked really fabulous, but to be honest, it didn't stamp very well. And I got a lot of suggestions on my first look video of this stamp forge, and there were so many good tips and suggestions for what to try instead. And I was fully anticipating returning this because I got it on HSN. HSN has a 30-day return policy, no questions asked, and it's pretty low effort to do. But what I wanted to do before I, took that step of returning it was I wanted to actually give it a second try and try some of those tips that I got. But just the thought of it, and all the steps and what all is involved, I just could never find the time to sit down and do it. And what I wanted to do was actually a head-to-head, like take the same design, same size and everything, so that it would print out on the mint, and also I can make it on the stamp forge and then test them. I made the version that I wanted to do as a test on the Silhouette Mint, and I have not yet done it for the stamp forge. I didn't even put that video out because I wanted to have both so that I could put one video out right after the other, and then you could see the side by side. So I have this video edited, recorded. It's actually even uploaded to my YouTube channel. Just haven't published it yet because I haven't made this version. And now more than 30 days have passed and I can't return this. And yet, like, I still haven't done, the fair shot at using it a second time with all of those helpful tips that I got from everybody. And so, I don't know. I want to find time to actually do that and, do that comparison and give this another shot. But to be honest, it was so much work getting this done the first time that I hope maybe over the holidays, where when I'm slowing down a little bit from videos and live streams and whatnot, maybe I'll find the time to do that and we'll finally get that video out. But I'll be honest, I'm not super happy with the stamp forge, but that could just be me. I've only tried it the one time. I'm really happy with this. You can make like nice return address, stamps. And I mean, think of the cost of this. And like, if you have to move or whatever, then you have to get another return address, stamp. And do that a couple times and you've already paid for your mint. So, and that's just return address. Like, what if you want to do stamps for maybe labeling your books, from the library of, and you can stamp all of your, book covers with that, and, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of different uses, even if you're not using it for paper crafting, but I use it so that I can actually stamp like a little handmade by LV Handcrafted on the back of my cards. And I've actually changed my logo now and then through the years. So I've changed it from this a couple times, and I've had to repurchase that a couple times. So, it's one of those things where if you like to change things up now and then, if you are making to sell, maybe you like to change up your branding every once in a while, just to refine it or whatever. Having the mint is kind of nice. You can very easily do those little stamps for not a lot of time, effort, or money, really. It's a lot less expensive than custom ordering a stamp, that's for sure. And I'm actually gonna be using it soon to make some gifts for some crafty friends of mine. So I think it's really worth it. This one I really want to love, so I'm gonna give it another shot, especially since I can't return it at this point. So hopefully look forward to that video. All right, so now we're getting into some more kind of specialty one-off things. So let me pull out some more one-off tools that are kind of specialty. This one is the We Are Memory. So there's a theme here. I really like We Are Memory Keepers. As you can maybe tell. This is They're So Easy. I got this on super clearance. You can swap out different things at the top here to actually pierce different patterns. I think this is a fun little novelty something, just fun to play with. I feel like it's a toy, honestly. And this is not well constructed. It's just plastic. After time, even this is plastic. So after time, those sharp little points, they're gonna get dull, and they're not gonna be able to pierce anything. With enough use, it's really gonna not do much of anything. Maybe leave a nice little dent. It's not gonna poke a hole. As it is, this is just plastic and is not really sturdy, strong enough to punch through like any decent weight cardstock. Like, you can punch through paper and it's just fine, but then even 65-pound paper, it's a little bit of a struggle. You really have to push down hard to get it to actually pierce. So I wouldn't buy this again if I had the option. I knew what it was. I just didn't think through. I didn't really think through the fact that it's all plastic construction and what that really meant, because if you use it often to add some stitching detail to your projects, the idea is that you can stitch through, you can pierce through your papers, but really it can only really pierce through paper. Like, if you use a lightweight paper, I think it would be fine. Maybe 65-pound cardstock would be okay. But if you need to really pierce through anything thicker than that, you're gonna have to really put down a lot of force to get this to pierce through it. And if you're actually trying to use this to put some holes in so that you can stitch two panels together, good luck trying to get this to punch through or pierce through 2 layers of paper, cardstock, whatever. I really don't think it's meant to do that. And when you see it demonstrated in videos and HSN and whatnot, I really think that they're using pretty lightweight paper when they're doing their demonstrations, or they're just like good at making it look effortless, even though they are applying a lot of force. but I think it's fun as a little novelty something if you find it on super duper clearance and you don't mind the fact that this is not going to be something that's going to, I don't think this is going to last with heavy usage. I'll be honest. I mean, there's other piercing tools that I think are going to be better for that are metal constructed. And so they're more heavy duty so that you can actually punch through thicker materials. But then if you do get a lot of use out of it, then it's going to hold up over time. This plastic is not going to hold up over time. That said, I've used it a couple times. I've always liked it the times that I've used it. So, for what it is, it's okay. And it's just fun to add like a little extra stitching here and there, like a couple stitches here and there on a project. It's fine for that. It's not meant to really do any actual like real sewing or anything. So you kind of have to know what you're in for if you're gonna get it. But I'll be honest, like if I wouldn't even, I got it on kind of super clearance, but to be honest, I probably don't even think it was worth what I paid for it, even though I did get it on super clearance. If it was like a $1, $2 kind of thing, then yeah, maybe. But that's just my opinion. I think there's probably people out there who really love it, but I don't super regret it, but if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't buy that. This is the We Are Makers, We Are Memory Keepers rotating precision press, and this is kind of cool. It's basically a wreath builder. You can you can stamp a circular design. And the idea is that you would take, this is not a square, but if you had like a square piece of paper, what you would do is there's a corner here for a 4, 5, 6, 7-inch panel. And then what you would do is let's say this is a 6-inch panel. So you would line it up like that, put this back onto the base here. Very strong magnet. Then depending on kind of the design that you would want, there's some lines here. So this says 6 inches. So if your 6-inch panel, then you want to make sure that whatever stamp image, it's under that 6-inch dotted arc. So it's under here. And that way it stays on your panel when you stamp. And the idea is that you would put something on here, and then this has markings, and when you rotate this, it actually clicks, so that if you want to get something really evenly spaced, you can actually see the number of degrees that you need to rotate it, and just turn the dial, and then stamp, turn the dial, stamp. Well, you have to ink up also. So it's really nice. It's really compact. Like most other wreath building things feel like they're a lot heavier or a lot bigger and take up a wider, larger footprint. And this works really well. I've used it a couple times. I've always loved using it. Every time I've pulled it out, I kind of feel like I should reach for it more often than I do. But it's really great. This dial system is fabulous. I like it a lot. So if you like making wreaths or, stamping out any sort of circular design, this is a nice tool. I mean, it is kind of single purpose, very specialized. And so for that, I don't know if it's worth it in the sense of, do I do that sort of stamping often enough to have justified purchasing this? Well, I got it on sale, so I feel like I don't regret what I paid for it. And I always want to use it more often than I do because it was fun. Like every time I go to use it, I find it enjoyable and fun to do. Same with this, to be honest. Like every time I've never had any sort of frustration with it because I know what its limitations are. And so I steer clear from butting up against those limitations. This one I find enjoyable because it's just a well-designed product. It works really well, and it is really great. And it's small enough that I don't mind having this as a very specialized one-off tool in my craft room. So I like it. All right, so that covers some very one-off things. Now let's get into some of the media supplies that I have been on a bit of a recent kick. So I have, besides these couple things, this. I don't even think I've shown anyone this. This I do have a first look and a swatch video for. Okay, so I am a big fan of just trying and getting different media supplies. And let's start with the color pencils because I've been on a real kick of these. I've been using these a lot, and where I'm coming from is I actually have this set of Prismacolors. I really enjoy the Prismacolor pencils. They're great. The only problem is that, and a lot of people have also experienced this, so I'm not the only one, but I have quite a bit of breakage with some pencils. So this one right here breaks all the time. This is not this short because I use it a lot. This the only reason why this is as short as it is because I keep on having to sharpen it because it keeps on breaking. And that's true for any pencil that you see that's kind of short like that. That's why it's short. Because I don't use color pencils. This is Prismacolor, but these are the harder ones. These are the soft, really creamy. I mean, these are so great. They are really, really good. The only problem I have with them is that a lot of them break all the time. And so I have to constantly sharpen them in order to have a nice tip. Because these are softer in any case, you have to kind of sharpen them more often than you would, say, a polychromo color pencil, which I'll show next. Um, because they do start to get kind of blunt at the ends, and then you can't layer quite as well, and also you can't kind of color into your smaller areas quite as well. But they just break a lot, and I find that frustrating. Like the white is legit this short because I do use it a lot because I often burnish with white. But pretty much anything else that is like very noticeably shorter than the other color pencils beside them, it's because of breakage, because I really haven't used these all that much. And that's because lately it's very frustrating when you can't really get into the flow of coloring because every couple of lines that you color, you feel like you break the tip and then you have to sharpen, and that just takes me out of the flow of coloring and it just makes it not enjoyable. So I picked these up out of curiosity. I saw some really good reviews on them and saw them being kind of mentioned in the same breath as color pencils that cost like 5, 6, 7 times as much as these. And I found them on sale on Amazon for like 45-50% off. I think it was like 40-45% off. And so I thought, okay, well, I think they were marked down so much that they were less than $1 a pencil. And there's 36 colors here. And so I thought, okay, well, that's a decently, relatively inexpensive price compared to the others. And so the other, like, kind of higher end, more expensive pencils. And Posca is a known brand, although known for their acrylic paint markers. But I tried them and I loved them. And then as I was coloring, or as I was swatching these, they felt a lot like um, how the Faber-Castell polychromos felt when I swatched these out. And so I actually, in my first look video, I swatched this, and I swatched a Prismacolor as well. And they were indeed, the Posca ones, they were indeed very similar in performance to the polychromos. And then it just got me to really start to enjoy color pencil coloring again. And so kind of kept my eye out for a sale on the polychromos, and this went on sale at Craft Stash. And I haven't been looking. I'm trying to not look to see if there's any active sales on it right now. But with Black Friday, you never know. Um, I did pick this up, and it's kind of a special set because it comes with this rollout case, which is kind of nice. But look at all these beautiful colors. It's really great. The reason why the reason why I didn't reach for this all that often is because the range is not super good. And I am not an artist, I'm not a colorist, so I haven't really mastered mixing colors to get, the actual, hue, shade, and whatever that I want. I just need for to have that color in the actual pencil. And so having a range is really nice. Even though these do layer really well, you can probably blend the colors really nicely and create what you need from just your basics. But I just don't find myself very capable at that. And so I'd rather have a broad range of colors. And this is a nice set. I mean, it's not super expensive. Again, it was on super sale. I think it was like probably over 60 or 70% off when I got it. And so it got down to a price. It wasn't as cheap per pencil as the Poscas, but it put it in the range of something that I could see myself spending, especially since I'm not like a professional colorist. I don't sell anything. I don't need anything to be light fast, you know. I just find them enjoyable to use. And so I'm just using them to color stamped images, and I'm finding it a lot of fun to use these. Surprisingly enough, this set here, the only duplication I had to my 12 set is just these core colors. The red, yellow, blue, black, and white. So I don't hate having duplicates of the black and white. White I use a lot because I tend to burnish with white. But so you can never have too many of that. And then these are kind of basic colors, right? Your red, yellow, blue, you can mix any colors with. So having duplicates there, not a huge deal. And then otherwise, nothing else duplicated. So quite a range now, and it kind of filled in very nicely. What I had before, you can kind of see how there wasn't even a purple here. So now I've got a couple purples and some really nice neutrals. Like I've got a lot of grays now, some warm grays, some cool grays. I've got more tans and browns, so I can maybe do some skin tones. There aren't really any pinks. There's only the one pink. It's a nice fleshy pink, but there is that still lacking in this set. But to be honest, it's a really nice broad range. So I really, really like it. And I look forward now to color pencil coloring. I mean, I might go back and use my Prismacolors because I enjoyed that up until I didn't. Up until I don't know what happened. I don't know if I dropped it or what, but I mean, it is in a padded case. And so if I dropped it, I mean, they're kind of secure in these elastic bands, so I feel like even if I dropped it, yeah, because sometimes that can happen, right? If you drop it, maybe you introduce like some, hairline, cracks or whatever down the middle of the barrel, and then so as you sharpen, it kind of reveals those cracks, and then they break on you. But I feel like this is in the nice case and everything, and if I did drop it, which I don't even remember doing, this should have protected it from any damage, but who knows? Um, but I feel like this was worth it. I really love the polychromo color pencils. So if you find yourself looking at a good deal for those and you're in the market for color pencils, I there's nothing regrettable about that. So then alcohol markers. So I am a huge fan of Ohuhu brush markers. It's the Honolulu Bees specifically that I recommend because Honolulu A has the brush tip and the chisel tip, and I don't color backgrounds. If you color backgrounds, the chisel tip's going to give you a broader tip that will make quick work of filling in your background. So well worth it for that, but I use my alcohol markers to color stamped images, and stamped images, I often find like those small areas, it's way more helpful for me to have the fine tip. So Honolulu Bees have brush and a fine tip. Here you go. That's the Honolulu B. So you got your brush tip and your fine tip, as compared to this one, which is your Honolulu A's, which has brush and chisel. So, but the brush tip is key because for the price, you really can't beat the price of the Ohuhu markers. They are fabulous, fabulous value for money, and they are not the Honolulu markers are not a white label marker. Like you'll find a lot of alcohol markers on the market, and if you notice, they kind of all have several of them share the same shape, barrel, and look and color palette. That's very likely the same manufacturer that is doing what's called white labeling, meaning you can order from them and then put your own. They don't care about having their brand on it. You can put your own brand on it. And that's what white labeling is. Like they are essentially unbranded and they allow you to put your own brand on it, but it's the same product. That's not what Ohuhu markers are. They are their own product. They do their own market research. They have their own line. As far as I can tell, I believe that to be true. I could be wrong, but that is my belief, especially since I am signed up to to be a market research test, like a tester when they are researching new products. And so I know that they do their own market research and market testing and all of that good stuff. That said, is the brush tip on an Ohuhu any different from the brush tip on like a Copic marker? And there is a noticeable difference. I'm not even like any sort of professional colorist by any stretch of the imagination, but even I can tell that there is a difference between um, Copic markers and Ohuhu markers. I mean, it's just undeniable. There's a difference, and I have to admit that the Copic markers are better quality. So that is definitely, if you have the budget for them, they're great. This is all I have in my Copics. There's not a lot. Most of them are the child markers because they are less expensive than the sketch markers. And the only difference is that there's a broader range of colors in the sketch, and there's more ink in the sketch. But that's fine. I don't need a lot of ink because I don't color so often that I need to refill. I have never needed to refill anything. So um, what I've been getting into lately, though, are these. The Altenew alcohol markers. And I'll have to admit, I was only introduced to these because of a sponsorship of Kendra's Card Challenge by Altenew. And so I received a set to use and share some creations with. And then I formed a relationship with Altenew, and they sponsored a coloring with Meg class. And so I actually received more markers for us to use during that class. And then I just really, through those sponsorships, fell in love with the quality. And then the price was actually somewhere in between in Ohuhu and Copics. Very reasonably priced. And so I've purchased more sets ever since. And so what started out as, a product that I received from Altenew to try as part of sponsorships have really sold me on now becoming a customer, and I have purchased several sets in addition. One of the things that I really like about the way Altenew sells their markers is that, as you can see from this packaging, there's basically three different, I would say like three different color bands or colorways. And in each of those colorways, you actually have 4 shades. So you've got like a light all the way to a dark. And they sell their markers in these 12 packs, and they also sell them in 4 packs. So when they sell them as a 4 pack, you're basically getting 1 row here. And I really like that system because if you pick up a set of 12, you are guaranteed to have, a light, 2 mediums, and a dark. And so if you are the type of colorist where you're really trying to do kind of this sort of stuff, where you've got lots of shadows and lots of highlights and some good variation between, I think it's really great how they've packaged this so that you can achieve that. Whereas the Ohuhu markers and the Copic markers, when you buy them as bundles, you're not really guaranteed even 3 in a color series. And so it's kind of hard to, like, that's why I actually don't reach for my Copics very often, because I bought, I think, a set. I think I got like the B set, and then I got a few just a la carte individually as they've come on sale. And so when you get them as a bundle, that's when you get your best kind of price per marker, because you're buying more markers. But you can kind of see, I don't really, if you look at all of them, you can see a lot of the skin tones and the browns. Those are ones that I've purchased individually because I think you get a really nice smooth blend with Copics. And when I do anything with skin tones, that's where I'm pickiest with my coloring. And so I have a lot of the skin tone colors because I bought those individually. And then all of the rest, those are more based off of sets. And then I've had to kind of purchase one at a time, some markers to fill in some gaps so that I could get some blend, like some three color blends from them. So it's kind of hard with Copics. I kind of feel like it's nice that you can buy them as individual markers. You can do that with Ohuhu markers now. You couldn't when I first got into Ohuhus. But the Altenews are great because they're only ever sold as blending sets, so that you have a set of 4. And it's still 4 very distinct different colors. But if you're looking to do some blending, you can. And you've got all of the colors there. So I actually have I have 3 12 packs, and I just bought one. It hasn't arrived yet. And so this is a printable that they have on their on Alt News website, and it has all of the different 12 packs that you can get. And so as I've been picking them up, I am trying to keep track of which sets that I have so that I don't duplicate. This is the one coming to me. This was 65% off recently. So thank you to Melissa. She saw the deal. She thought of me. Thanks, friend. And she sent me the the heads up that it was on like super duper clearance sale. So very, very grateful because I jumped on that and I got that. And I shared the news. So if you are Black Friday shopping, or just in general, if you are like a bargain shopper and you're looking for deals, do check my YouTube community page, because that's pretty much where I post deals that I come across first. That's the first place that I post things. I have a an email coming up where I'm gonna blast out all of the Black Friday sales that I know about, and ones that are coming down the pipe that that you might find interesting. And so if you're signed up for my newsletter, then you'll get that on in your mailbox. And as I continue to discover these Black Friday deals, I will email them out once a week. So I've been emailing them out on Fridays. And so if you want to sign up for my newsletter, the description box, I'll leave a link to where you can sign up. So, really loving the Altenew markers. I think they are really great value for money. Quality-wise, I would actually say, yes, the brush tip is better than Ohuhu. I have to admit that. As much as I love my Ohuhu markers, they are some of the older ones, they are fraying a little bit at the ends, and they are not quite, I'm not quite as able to get like a really fine kind of flick to them. So so that is something that hopefully we'll see with use, whether these hold up just the same. But I think everything quality price wise, they're right in the middle between, well, not dead center middle, but I'm saying they're somewhere in the middle between Ohuhu and Copics. Copics, I feel like, are out of my budget. These Altenew markers, I kind of feel like full price, they're out of my budget, but they go on sale pretty often. Sometimes it's not very unlikely to see them at 40% off. I mean, they almost kind of regularly are 40% off. Not all of them. That's the thing. Like sometimes there'll be one set here or there that's 40% off, and then others are maybe 20% off, and others not discounted at all. So when they go on sale, it's not that all of them go on sale. It's just that a couple different sets will be on sale. And the one that's coming to me that Melissa told me about, it was just an oddball. It was 65% off. For a set of 12, I think it was marked down to something like $16, which is a really great price for it. I think normal price is something like $44. So so that is my alcohol marker journey. Okay, so now the color cube. Oh, the color cube. Would I buy this again? I did do I think I did a first look at this, and I shared that I already had the digital color catalog, which is basically the exact same, all of these color blends, and even the inspiration photo and everything, just in a digital format. It's in a PDF that's a searchable PDF and really easy to use, very functional. It's clickable. It's great. It works really great. I just wasn't using it. I have it on my phone because I thought, okay, if it's on my phone, it's going to be easier for me to use because I always have my phone on me. And so I can just open my phone, do a little search, bring up a color palette, and boom, I am on my way. And as easy as that sounds, I just never used it. And I had it for like a design teammate of mine from like years and years ago. She told me about it and I thought, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And then she told me that there was a sale on it. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get that for that price. And so I got both of the color catalog, the digital version, and found myself really not using it at all. And so I thought, okay, maybe the reason why I'm not using it is because it's on my phone and it's so forgettable. With this being a physical product literally right in front of my face, I have both of them. There's a one box one and box two, and they're right in front of me. They're within arm's reach, and a constant reminder because it is in front of me to use. So, does that mean I use them? Well, not so much. And I'll tell you why. The box is really great. The physical product is really great. The printing is really lovely. The quality of the card is really lovely. The problem is that the way that I craft, I'm not looking for a random color palette. And more often, what I want is, let's say I have a mermaid that I want to color. And so when I think mermaid, I think maybe purples and blues and pinks. And let's say that I want to color my mermaid with pink hair. Well, I would like to have a color palette that has pink in it. And when you just have this is not searchable. I cannot very easily, within this set and within the second set, do a search to find all of the color palettes with pink, look at them all side by side, and then pick the palette of pink that I like. It's not possible to do really in a practical sense. This is great if you just want to, okay, I don't know what I'm making. Let's just make something and pull out oh, that's pretty. Uh, but it's just not possible to do. So in practice, what do I end up doing? Well, what I end up doing is I actually pull up my digital version of the color catalog, and then I actually do that search to find the color palette that I want. And once I have, because they're all numbered, so each of these color palettes actually has a number in the corner there. And so once I find the color palette that I want, then I'll reach and I will fish out the physical card. And the reason why I don't just use the digital version is, well, there's a couple reasons. The first reason is that this is really nice to have like right next to me, and I can actually kind of color match it because on the back the color is printed all the way to the edge. And so that's actually kind of nice because when you take this to like your pattern paper or your solid color cardstock, you can actually get a really good sense for whether or not that's a good match with your papers. And so it's kind of nice to have the physical, but on a more practical case, my phone, when I bring it up, eventually the screen will actually, like if you don't touch it, if you don't interact with it, the screen will turn off. And if you're using like a messy medium like sprays or inks and your fingers are all inky and messy, I'm not going to touch my phone to bring it back to life. And so, so then I lose the color palette, the inspiration. So having the physical card's nice because I can actually see it, keep it right next to me as I'm crafting. So here's what I've been doing lately. So when I actually use this in a project, what I do is you can browse by color, keyword, or collections. And so I often, I actually go between browsing by color and browsing by keyword, because you can actually browse by words like sunset, for example, um, autumn, things like that. So I find that really, really useful. But most of the time, what I'm doing is browsing by color. And so then what I'll do is, okay, going back to my example, let's say I want to color a mermaid up and I'm going to color like hot pink hair. Well, then I can go to the hot pink section and then I can kind of look at, okay, what are some color palettes that are great, that have hot pink, that I can use for my mermaid scene? Oh, that one looks nice. 242. So then what I'll do, 242 I know is in the first box because each box has 250 cards in there. So what I would do is go to this, and 242, you can see, is right there. And I mean, my screen, I feel like the color on my phone screen, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's not too different to real life. Um but every screen is going to be different is the thing. Like every screen, every device renders colors a little bit differently. So when you have the physical card in hand and you can kind of compare it to see, okay, I've got this bit of paper. Ooh, that actually is a good, pretty good match. And you can put it up right against, these swatches here. You can see whether it's a good match too. This actually is a good match. So like it's practical to have the physical, but I feel like um in order to actually effectively use it for the way that I craft anyhow, I actually need the digital version to do the initial lookup. And then I can find it, and then I'm off to the races in terms of actually, crafting with this color palette. Now, what I have done in order to get more use out of the color cube is I actually designed a crafty fun game called This or That Color. It's a live stream that is part of the rotation of Crafty Fun with Friends on Saturday at 2 p.m. And I designed that game explicitly to get some use out of my color cube because I felt like for what I paid, I just wasn't getting a lot of use out of it. And so I wanted to have an excuse to bring it out. And also, I wanted to give people who don't want to invest in the color cube just like a little bit of a sneaky peek at it so that they can kind of see what the different palettes are. I mean, we only pull out 2 color palettes every time we play. So it's not a lot, but it helps to kind of get everybody, all of us, out of the same color rut. Like left to my own devices, it would be teal morning, afternoon and night. I'm sure that if you watch a lot of my videos, you're probably sick of seeing teal in all of my projects, but when I am left to pick my own colors, that's what I gravitate to because that's what I like. But that's not because I dislike anything else. It's just because that's what I know and I often stick to what I know. And so the color palette, the color cube is really nice to kind of break me out of that color rut. But that being said, it is one of those things that I feel like on its own, the digital version wasn't cutting it I tried to use this by itself and that wasn't really cutting it. I only really feel like I started to actually use it and use it in a meaningful, helpful, practical way when I started to use them both. So what does that mean? I feel like if you're gonna get this system, just depending on how you're wanting to use it, if you like to just pull a random card and then craft, I think it's great. But if you feel like you already kind of have something in mind that is your project, and there's like an initial like anchor color or a core color or one color that you know that you want to use, and you just want to have a palette to choose from, to extend that, then I just feel like having the physical one is not, it's very hard to craft that way and to find a palette that way because there's 500 cards split between two boxes. How are you going to find, every version, like just even one version of something with, let's say I'm looking for, periwinkle. What are the chances this card is gonna have periwinkle? Right? Like I could randomly pick a number of times and the likelihood that I'll have picked one that includes periwinkle is pretty low, I think. And so that's one of the things that is, as great as this is, I feel like just in terms of practical usage for me anyways, and how I need to, how I think about color, how I think about or approach my projects, it's on its own, it didn't cut it on its own. So I'm glad that I have both because now using the two in combination, that's where I really feel like I'm getting a little bit more of my money's worth. That said, it's more money out and you're buying two versions of the same content. But the form factor matters, to be honest. And I think there is a bundle for getting them both together. So there is that. And also, if you travel and you're crafting on the go at all, at least you can keep your digital version on your phone. Like I have mine on my phone. It's really hard to travel with two big cubes of the physical cards. So there is kind of, a reason to have both. But I feel like, there's some pros and cons there. Okay, so I covered a lot of things and oh, let's see. I think this is maybe one of the last things to cover, and it is the glue press by My Sweet Petunia. Oh, the glue press. Does one really need a device for applying adhesive? Well, I would not have thought so, but I do have this. And that's kind of the equivalent of a device, a trigger style device for essentially applying, your tear tape, and it's really, I feel, kind of the equivalent of using your glue press as opposed to, say, this, or as opposed to how your glue would naturally come. And so, is it worth it? Well, I think so, but not everybody might. So I did do a first look at the glue press when I got it, and I promised to do a follow-up, but I don't think I ever did. And I think I bought this on a Black Friday deal a year ago, so it's been a year. But you can probably conclude that I like it because you see me using it ever since I got it, and it's probably almost every video I use one of these two things. So the ATG is it's really fast way of applying tear tape. You don't have to tear anything, and as the name would suggest, it really just glides across the page. Really easy, really fast, and kind of low effort on your hands and everything. So this you have to kind of find where the edge is, put it down, cut it, tear it away, whatever you're gonna do, and then you have to lift the paper liner, on the other side to reveal the stickiness, and then you adhere the thing on. It's a lot of steps. Is it really like that laborious to do? Probably not. But if you're making a lot of cards, anything that speeds up the process of anything along the way is a benefit when you do craft as often as many of us who create videos and are part of design teams. So it's, this I've never regretted buying. At the time I got it, it seemed expensive until I saw this. This is pretty spendy. I did get it for, I think it was like 20% off. And so I have not really seen this get super discounted. So it's hardly ever in stock, much less, going on sale or being discounted. So it is one of those things that I think plenty of people are more than happy to pay full price for. And why is that? Okay, so I feel like when I've asked about people's, because I asked for a lot of opinions before I buckled and actually bought it, and what sent me over the top was Charlene actually told me about the sale, and then I was like, okay, well, if there's a sale, I'm gonna get it. I wasn't gonna pay full price for it, but with a sale, I thought, okay, that still makes it kind of expensive, but at least I'm not gonna super regret paying full price if I do happen to be in that bucket of people who have had issues with it. And so I feel like it's kind of a polarizing product, kind of like the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer, because some people have had some real issues with it, and if I had those issues, I would not be happy either. When I did my unboxing video though, I told everybody I'm not going to be precious about how I use this. I'm just going to nonchalantly throw it in its cradle because I feel like if you have to be super precise about getting this set just right, that's annoying. I don't have time for that. I'd rather just use this. And because this does not need an instruction manual and a lot of caveats and addendums for proper usage. And I kind of feel that way about the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer. I'm probably doing something wrong, but then at the end of the day, I also feel like a paper trimmer should just do its thing without you having to need a lot of very specific instructions in order to get it to function at a high quality. And so when I got this, when I did my first look video, I told everybody that I'm not going to be precious about how I handle this, about how I put this in the cradle, and I want to just see if you can be casual about it and what issues you would have as a result. I know a lot of people who have zero negative things happening, but a lot of those people put the cap back in, and the cap has a built-in pin, like a built-in needle, just like this has the needle that you can put into the tip, and that prevents air from getting into this tip and drying out your glue and creating a clog. So if you look at the tip at this moment, there's dried glue bits there. There's a little bit of dried glue. And let's see if I can, there we go. Focus. And so if that continues to kind of dry, what might end up happening kind of over time is that it's actually going to clog, and then you're gonna have to like kind of, having a hard time focusing here. Then you're gonna have to actually put a pin inside. Let's see if I can get it to focus this way. There we go. And then you're gonna have to kind of unclog that little bit, if especially if it's inside the needle, and you just stick a pin in there, and hopefully that helps to dislodge the dried glue. So I actually just finished, a project not too long ago, maybe a few hours ago. And so just casually setting it in here, it has resulted in a little bit of glue coming out, not a ton. And so there's a bit of dried glue, but I can easily just pick that off. Not a lot. I can just pick that off and then pull the trigger. And now that I say that, now the glue's not coming out. So maybe it is possible that you get some clogs. I have had this clog on me a couple times, and I'll actually tell you what I think fixed it for me. But I think because I've had this out and been playing with it, I think I actually pushed some of that dried glue up into the needle. Normally though, this has not clogged on me, but if it does clog on you, and I've had that happen maybe a couple times, all I do is I just stick a pin in, and then I can usually dislodge that dried glue and get it to flow again. But generally, I haven't really had an issue, because even when it's kind of dried out, like maybe just from casual use, I'll have a blob of maybe that much glue, and I can usually just like I showed earlier, just wipe that away, and it just flows pretty easily. Now, I was kind of holding it out here for like, how long have I been talking about the glue with it out like this? Maybe a couple minutes. That was kind of enough time for the glue to actually dry within the needle. And so that is something that can happen. And so if it's in the holder, it's hitting this silicone little nib here and creating like a seal so that air doesn't get into that tip and dry it out. But the glue that I have in here right now is Fairly Art glue. And this is a really high quality glue. It's pretty thick. So what that means is that it's not going to take a lot of air for this to start actually drying. And I think it's just because I'm like kind of holding it outside of its cradle and you know, swinging it around and stuff. And so that's, I think, is why it dried up. But I'm going to leave a little bit of glue out here as I hold this and talk, because if it starts to dry, it'll dry that bit, and then I can peel it off, and anything that's dried inside of that fine needle tip will dislodge when I pull that out. And really, that's basically the extent of the issues that I've had. It's always been just like a little bit of glue like this that might have seeped out, even with it in the cradle. And I won't be precious. I've never been precious about setting this in, really making sure I push it down hard or anything like that. I basically just do what I showed. I just put it back in. And sometimes while I'm crafting, I'll even rest it on the side like this. You'll see me do that. Usually it's not out like that for a super extended period of time, but I'm not precious about it at all. And I really haven't had any real major, spillage at the bottom. Like I said, maybe a little bit of a glue booger at the end, but that's easily picked off. Now, that's with one exception. There was a period of time where I had a lot of seepage, not a lot, but a lot more than just like a little bit. at the edge. I mean, there was actual like seepage that I could see on the silicone here. And I think the reason for that, I'm not sure why this would be the case, but I think the reason for that because it only started happening when the glue bottle was really low. And what was happening was that I was trying to use all of the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive because that's what comes with the glue press when you buy it. And I was trying to use all of that up before I filled it with Barely Art because I didn't want the two glues to mix. And so I was trying to use it all up, but then as I was getting lower, I was getting a little bit of glue seepage for some reason, and I was getting more clogs in the needle. And I'm wondering if that's just because maybe there wasn't enough glue to really keep the pressure or the air from going into the needle tip. I'm not too sure. But that's the only time I was having any sort of glue seeping out more than just like a little bit of a glue burger at the end. And and that's when I had to like pretty much every time I picked it up to use, I would have to unclog it like I showed just now. And so once I refilled the bottle though, that went away 100%. So for whatever reason, that was the cause of that issue, and I haven't had that issue happen again. And I've refilled the bottle, I think twice now, and it's been fine ever since. And I'm using the more fine tip. When you get it, there's two. There's this one which has a larger hole, and so the fine tip I think is more likely to get clogged, I think because it is smaller, but like I said, I'm not super precious about how I set it in here, and sometimes I go days without actually crafting and using it. So sometimes it's in there just like that for days and no clogs. Beyond what I showed, like having like that little bit of glue there, that doesn't really bother me. Like that little bit, it's easy enough to kind of pick that off. And so if you have like, fine motor skill issues, arthritis, carpal tunnel, stuff like that, I feel like this might be a little bit easier on your hands, on your body, because you can, instead of just using like a couple of fingers to like really press this, you can use, four fingers and like a full hand grip to kind of expel the glue out of this. And so it might be a little bit easier on your body. And it might be, if you don't have those issues, preventative of those issues so that you don't have, create issues that aren't there. And so for that reason, I do think that it is kind of nice. Now, the only thing is that you do have to make sure that you're using a glue that is fairly thick, because if you use a glue that's runnier, I think you are probably going to get more seepage out at the bottom. So one of the things I wanted to try to use in this was my Lanco pH neutral. I just have to finish up this because I wanted to try the Barely Art glue first after Nuvo. Barely Art works fabulous. And so I should have known that that would not be a problem. I thought that maybe, is it too thick? Because I think it is thicker than the Nuvo. So I was thinking, what I wanted to test by putting this in there, after the Nuvo was done, was to see, is it too thick for the fine tip needle, or do I have to use it in the broader tip? And it works fine through the fine tip. So next, once this is empty, I'm gonna use the Lanco pH neutral glue, because this is still my favorite adhesive for bang for buck, dollar value, because it is high quality, acid free, archival safe, all of that good stuff, and it's a really good price. It's a bookbinder's glue, So people who bookbinders who make their own handmade books use it. Barely Art is also archival safe, acid free, all of that good stuff. It's now labeled as such. I'm really glad for that because they didn't always label it, and it was actually quite hard to find that information even on their website if you were looking for it. So it's a very high quality glue. It's more expensive though, a lot more expensive. And I have it and I craft with it, but I have it mostly because I am on the Cards for Cubs design team and I'm provided with the Barely Art glue to use on my projects. And I love it. I bought it a couple times, but I'll be honest, it's so expensive as compared to Lenko that I don't find myself, wanting to spend my money that way unless it's on sale. So I really look for sales to buy and restock. And otherwise, at full price, I feel like it's kind of spendy. Whereas the Lenko pH neutral, I mean, I'm always looking for a sale. I mean, that's the best time to buy stuff that you're going to use all the time. But with Lenko, I don't mind waiting until I'm out and then paying full price and getting it in like a day or two from Amazon. So it's very accessible. You can buy it whenever. It's very available on Amazon, comes really fast. The Lenko pH neutral is great that way. Um, so um, so those are glues, the glue press, glue, application tools. I definitely recommend both, to be honest. I like them. I have no regrets about spending the money on them, especially the fact that I use it pretty much one or both of those every time I craft. Okay, so that brings me to the very last thing I think I can offer an opinion on, and that's this. This is the Glassboard Studio mat. I did a first look video on this. Glassboard Studio did provide this to me for free to review, and I have my first look video, and I actually do have my concluding thoughts video on this, and I love it. I mentioned in my first look video that if it would be really obvious to tell if I liked it or not, because if I didn't like it, I would be returning to the black silicone mat that's right underneath this. And as you can tell, this is still my mat, and it's my preferred mat. And in fact, I have to say, for one of the things that I would say, if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have bought this to begin with instead of trying out all of the less expensive mats that I have over the years used. And the reason is there's so many reasons, to be honest. I mean, this is a little bit spendy, and I was fortunate that I got it for free, but now that I have it, I do believe it's worth what it costs. So mine is 22 inches by 16. It's a really nice size for the space that I have. And in my conclusion video, I talk about like all of the things that I tried before this, and that means that I bought a lot of mats before this. And besides buying a lot of mats, craft mats to cover my surface with, I've also bought like additional things like the silicone mat for doing like techniques, inky things that are messy, and things, having something that I can easily clean up. And this works really great. It's the waffle flower mat. It's silicone, and it's a nice size for A2, but then, you get bigger than that, then you're very soon like kind of outside the boundaries of this. And as well, if you're the kind of person that is bugged by it, which I slightly am, this does stain. Like, you can see the pinks and the blues that have stained it. It's not dirty. It's stain. Well, it is dirty also, but it's the pink and the blues is a result of it being stained. That's never gonna come out. But it's not gonna transfer to my next project. It's just not gonna come out because this is now. I mean, you can even see it's stained all the way to the back. You can see some of the pink. Um, so like if that bugs you, or you're like a video content creator like I am, and you like to have a nice clean surface and nice, tidiness when you do your videos, that might bug you. It might bug you enough to buy another one just for the purpose of, having a nice clean one on video. I mean, I have thought more than once to buy a new BetterPress solely so that I can have something nice and clean and presentable in my videos. But I've embraced the fact that my messy BetterPress just means that I love it and that I use it a lot. But the glass mat, craft mat though, is really great because it's really easy to clean up and it doesn't stain. And then besides that, I was using a silicone mat was what I was using directly before this, and I have two versions of that silicone mat. It's the scrapbook.com one, and I have it in black and I have it in white. I like them both. They were really good. The problem is they can't cut onto them, and so I actually had to um buy a small cutting mat. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. Um, so I got this when it went on sale at Spellbinders. It's a Fun Stamper's Journey small little cutting mat, so that as I was crafting on the silicone mat, I could safely cut onto this, so I could pull it on and off camera. And the reason why I switched to the silicone mat is before the silicone mat, I had a self-healing mat much like this that was very well loved, cut into a lot, and it just didn't look good on camera. And as my primary surface, I mean, that might not matter to you as a crafter, just crafting in your home for nobody to see but yourself. But as a content creator, I was rather bothered by the fact that my cutting mat was over the months and over the years getting like a lot of cut marks that were very, very visible, despite cleaning it every once in a while and trying to get all of the paper out of it and stuff like that. And so I kept on having to buy cutting mats to replace perfectly usable cutting mats just for the aesthetics of the video. And so for that reason, I purchased several cutting mats, and then some of those mats warped over time because when I was maybe heat embossing something, I might have forgotten or not held it far enough away from my self-healing mat, and it got a little bit too warm, and then it started to warp and to have like buckles and bubbles and whatnot. So I've had that happen. Whereas the glass mat it's not 100% heat proof, but it is heat resistant. So I could my heat gun, I don't know where my heat gun is, but pretend this is my heat gun. I could leave my project here and then melt the embossing powder right directly on there, and it would be totally okay. It would not hurt the glass mat. And then besides that, the glass mat is fully magnetic. So what you see here, these are magnets. So they're really good for holding down like a stencil, for example. You can use this to hold down your stencils. They are also really good for these new ones that have come out. Now there's like different shaped ones and whatnot, but these ones are kind of cool. They have a ruler on them, which is kind of nice because if you watch my conclusion video on this, I don't super love the grid system here because it's really hard to actually, depending on the angle that you look at, It's hard to really line things up on the grid. But this is kind of nice because you can get your paper right up to, the ruler line here and measure. But really, I don't really use it for that though. What I use it for is, I haven't done this a lot on camera, I don't think, but what I like to use it for is, let's say you're gluing down like here's some paper panels that are from the Crafty Stamp Company's new Crafty Crew kit. If you're looking for a subscription kit, card making kit, the Crafty Crew kit's pretty cool. It's got a 6x6 paper pad, a couple of stamp sets, and stencils, lots of goodies. But how I'm using these magnetic rulers is, let's say I am gluing down a couple different layers and I kind of want to make sure that it stays put and that it's weighted. I've been using these for that. So these are heavy, but it's not so much that they're heavy, sorry, but they're magnetic and they're wide. And so they feel heavy once the magnet has like grabbed onto it. It's really holding it down there, nice and firm. I feel like it's giving solid pressure, but then it's, you can slide it around pretty easily. Now you want to be careful because what just happened then, like these are so strong, you could really pinch yourself and kind of hurt yourself, I think. So you just want to be careful if you have more than one of them to kind of keep them away from each other. But otherwise, I mean, you saw how strongly they can attract to each other. There is this kind of groove here so that when you can kind of safely kind of put it down, you can easily pull it back up. So as strong as the magnet is, there is that lip that you can easily kind of get under to pull it up, and somewhere safe that you can hold it by to put it down so that you don't pinch your fingers. But I really, really like it. I mean, they keep on coming out with new things, new accessories that you can get, but this is the reason why I like to use the magnetic ruler. And Glassboard Studio had a sale on these specifically because they were just recently introduced, and I think that's over now. But I do have a discount code. You can use LV for LV Handcrafted, LV. Just put that in and you'll get at least 15% off. Black Friday, you might find that discount change. So, hint, hint. So you can enter that for a discount. I know there's going to be some Black Friday sales at Glassboard Studio. So if you've been thinking about their glass mat, it comes in different sizes, larger than what I have and smaller than what I have. Be on the lookout for that. And every day of the week you can use the discount code LV for 15% off. That's going to change on for the Black Friday sale. So if you wait until they start their Black Friday sale, then you can enter that for a different discount. And so stay tuned, check it out. I'm going to leave links to everything in the description box below, to as many of the things that I talked about today, both the things that I love to use and the things that I don't really reach for all that often, and if I had to do it over again, probably wouldn't buy. But that's for me and the type of crafting that I do. You might actually find it to be a very valuable asset in your craft room. And so I'm going to leave links to everything just so that you can kind of do your own research, get a good look at what it is for yourself. And if you are in the market for it, and you do end up buying it, I hope you'll consider using one of my affiliate links, because I do get a commission when you do use and shop my links, and that comes at no extra cost to you. It's from the company that pays me a little bit of a commission when essentially when I help sell their products. So if you found this video to be helpful, if you find my reviews, which whether I buy the products myself or I actually am given the products to review by the company, I'm always very honest about my impressions and my first impressions, especially because I do those unboxing videos recorded in real time, so I can't help what comes out of my mouth as I'm experiencing it. But even in my follow-up videos after I've had a chance to use it for a fair amount of time to form a more well-informed opinion, I'm always very honest. And if you appreciate that and you appreciate this video or any of my product review videos, I do hope that you'll consider using my affiliate links. And that way, my videos are supported. You can tell I like a lot of my gadgets. I would buy them regardless, but to be honest, is very, very helpful to have the support of affiliate income to kind of offset my costs. And big thanks also to my channel members who support me through channel membership, because that also really, really helps to offset my costs. And I know that I don't put a lot of, free sketches or free, digis and things like that out. I like to offer a lot of freebies, especially now that I'm doing master classes and whatnot. But I I know that I'm not a creator that puts out something content on a monthly basis, besides my videos, which I put out a fair number of. But I appreciate that my members support me because they support me. And so thank you to all of my channel members. I know that when you're a channel member, you're doing it out of support and kindness and appreciation for the content that I create and for the entertainment value of my live streams, for the information and inspiration of my tutorial videos, for the honesty of my product reviews, and it's not for an exchange of digital products or things like that. And for that, I'm immensely grateful because I it's helpful. I'd like to do this more. I'd like to do this as a career, but I can't if I can't really sustain an income from it. And so everybody who is a channel member is helping me to achieve that lofty goal of making crafting a career and doing less of my day job. So thank you. Okay, this super long video is gonna end. So, thanks for watching and happy Black Friday shopping. What I'm also gonna leave in the description box is a link to my newsletter, because I'm gonna actually send out all of the Black Friday links and sales that I've been keeping tabs on, and so you'll have that all in your email boxes as well if you sign up for my newsletter. Thanks, everybody, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.